But we're going to talk tonight about keeping cool in conflict. Conflict is something that, like I told the folks at the training this morning, that not if your organization deals with it, it's when you do. It's always going to happen when you're dealing with people. Before we get started on the training, though, I want to talk a little bit about some things that we'll have coming up in this next month. The first thing will be Tuesday, April 12th. In this room at 6 p.m., we'll have a cultural presentation by Betty Frog. She's going to be talking about honeysuckle gathering and making honeysuckle baskets. So that'll be at 6 p.m. in this room. It'll just be at 6 p.m. On these we have morning sessions, but on the cultural sessions we just have them at 6. It'll be videoed as well, recorded. The next thing after that will be on April 23rd. There will be a Saturday training at New Life Church in Stillwell, and it will be over how to start a youth program. Nikifa Garay from Newark, New Jersey will be in to give that training. Some of y'all might remember her from our conference last year. She gave a couple presentations there. So she'll be there. Breakfast will start at 8. And presentation will start at 9, and we'll go until about 3 o'clock. So we'll feed you breakfast and lunch. I remember that was the very first CAUTA training that I ever went to. I wasn't an employee yet, and I remember I ate really well that day. So, and then on the 26th, Tuesday the 26th, we'll have our next leadership training. Chris will be doing that, and it'll be over planning for your organization, having a good plan for your organization. He'll be doing that at 10 a.m. and then again at 6 p.m. And as always, the 6 p.m. session will be filmed and put on the internet.
What was the date on the honeysuckle?
The 12th, Tuesday the 12th. Yeah, the second Tuesday of every month is the cultural training. The last Tuesday of every month is the leadership training. Not the fourth Tuesday, the last Tuesday. We had some people show up last week.
I know.
Wanting there to be a training the last Tuesday, but it's the last Tuesday. So if there's a fifth Tuesday in the month, it'll be that Tuesday. Did you have something, Chris?
Just one more thing. We do have kind of a special presentation. It will be good for TA hours. I've already talked to Tammy about this and she's approved this. But we work with the Nonprofit Resource Center over in Muskogee. And they have a great fundraising series that they do. So on the 14th at 6 o'clock in this room, we've reserved that for them so they can present to you guys that program. It's a great program. It's called the Fundraising Roadmap, how to really reach out to your donors, how to hold fundraising events, and a lot of different things. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, April 14th at 6 o'clock in this room, you guys are more than welcome to come. And just one more thing. We sent you guys out an email this afternoon, right, Brad? Mm-hmm. About some grant writing training. It's not through us, it's through another national organization. Tammy and them have been through it before, and they really liked it. It's a 2-day thing in Oklahoma City. It will cost you money, but if you guys are interested in that, check that out. Tammy said if you have some a little bit of lead room in your budgets to do some budget modifications, she will allow budget modifications if you guys want to attend that, because it's a really good, very important training. Other than that, the last thing is just the conference, June 3rd and 4th. You guys know that. Keep that. We've got close to 30 different cultural and capacity building trainers that are going to be in for that. We have some great special events that are going to happen. And proud to announce I believe it's official now that Chance Rush will be our keynote speaker, and we look forward to having him in. He's a great speaker. So register ahead of time. You have until May 6th to register for this conference. Be honest with you guys, it's grown every year. Last year we hit 500 people at this conference. When we first started, Tammy, we have about 60 people show up back in 2008 or so. So we've gone from 50 or 60 people to 500. So it's important that you guys pre-register for this, and we'll have your classes and things like that up soon, so you guys can kind of take a look at what you guys want to attend. So, other than that, I will turn it over to Brad.
All right, we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk about keeping cool in conflict. I kind of, this curriculum is good because it allows us to have a framework, and I deviated from the curriculum just a little bit to gear this toward leaders and board members in organizations. It's kind of geared toward you as the mediator or the peacemaker in a conflict. Because a lot of times as a board member, as a leader, you're going to have to step in, insert yourself into a situation where people in your organization are having conflict. So that's what this is geared toward. And we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves as well, and how we deal with conflict, and how we deal with anger, how we can recognize patterns and signs that we are getting angry, and how to deal with those before it gets out of hand. Because getting angry during a conflict, especially within organization like y'all's, can cause hurt feelings, can cause more division. And so as a leader, as a board member, we're going to try to avoid that anger and try to avoid inserting our own agendas into these conflicts, try to be neutral. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Welcome introductions, we've kind of already done those. We're going to talk about exactly what the goals are that we're going to learn. I've got a couple of videos for you, and I already talked with IT, and I already talked with everybody I needed to make sure that those were good. They're from a group that does nonprofit training, and they want folks to use these videos for nonprofit training. So we're going to watch a couple of videos, and then we're going to talk about those videos, what we saw in them that indicated that conflict was going to happen, because there's clues before a conflict actually arises and actually damages an organization. There's clues that you can key in on to kind of head that off before it starts. We're talking about the stages of conflict, and we're going to have some do's and don'ts as far as conflict resolution. Take a little break. And then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about our feelings. We're going to talk about ourselves and how we deal with anger. We're going to talk about some healthy ways and some unhealthy ways that people deal with anger, and what the consequences of those are when it comes to organizations and dealing with conflict in organizations. Then we'll have our next steps, our closing circle. And that will be it. Just some ground rules: be respectful. Wait your turn to speak. Observe time frames. That's more for me. I don't see. Where's Jan Rucker at? She's usually the one that has signs made up that say it's 8 o'clock. It's time to go. She hasn't had to use them on me yet, but okay. He's the timekeeper tonight. No solicitation. Don't try to sell anything. Cell phone set to vibrate or silent. It's a good time for me to make sure that mine is. There are no wrong answers. Don't be afraid to speak up, and have fun. So a little bit about what we're going to learn this evening. After this training, you should be able to use conflict to create healthy environments, increase honesty, and move your group forward. We're going to talk a little bit about how sometimes conflict is a good thing. It can actually help you deal with some problems within your organization that need to be dealt with. We're going to build skills on identifying what kind of conflict is happening. By what kind of conflict is happening, I mean we're going to identify the stage of conflict. There are different stages of conflict, and we'll talk about what stage we're in and what we can do to mediate that conflict in that particular stage. Understand how to avoid language and actions that escalate conflict, and build concrete strategies to de-escalate conflict. We're going to understand the stages of conflict and aggression in both language and action. Understand the different roles you can play in mediating, diffusing, and resolving conflict. Like I said, that's what most of this is going to be about, and have the ability to be a community peacemaker and help others disagree in healthy ways. So we're going to be talking a lot about compromise and a lot about meeting people in the middle, finding a solution that's good for everyone.
You're not going to show presidential debates.
No. We talked about politicians this morning. This is something that most of our current politicians are not good at. They tend to want to escalate conflict rather than de-escalate it. It gets their face on the television more. So no, politics are off limits. All right, we're going to watch a couple videos. Like I said, this is from a foundation called the Little Light Foundation that helps nonprofits and groups like yours. The animated videos, and the artist I've listed his name as well there, Pablo Smith. So we're going to watch a couple YouTube videos here, if the internet will work. Ty. They're real short. And it stopped for some reason. All right. Did those guys remind you of anybody in your organizations? Don't say names. We're videoing. So those videos they're real short, and but they say a lot within those few seconds. Some of the things I want to talk about with, as far as these videos go is how to recognize conflict, sometimes before it even starts. A lot of times in an organization, you guys are almost always in some stage of conflict, right? With as many people as you've got helping and things like that. There's something going on all the time, but a lot of those things can be headed off before they get too bad. In the videos, and you guys can just kind of shout out and I'll repeat it, or if you want to wait for the microphone, you can. In the videos, what were early signs that conflict was going to occur? It was cold. Do you guys ever ask your members, your volunteers, to be in stressful situations? Are they ever in stressful situations? Is stress, the more stress there is it more likely that conflict is going to occur? Yeah. And so the cold, that was a stressful situation. They were both under a certain amount of stress, and then they saw something that they both wanted, right? The blanket flying around. So that was a sign right there that something was going to happen. What else? Think about the very first picture that you saw both of the little animals in. They were on two different sides of the tree, right? Do you guys have people in your organizations that are on two different sides of the tree? Whether it be, we already said politics was off limits politically, or their beliefs are two opposite ends of the spectrum. When you have those kind of things, those are signs that conflict is probably going to happen. Like I said, it's not if you have conflict in your organization, it's when. What about the little guys in the video? What were some of their signs when you looked at them that conflict was going to occur? Yeah, their facial expressions. The second that the guy sleeping heard the little guy playing the guitar, his face told you that he was going to have a problem with that, right? What else? Nobody has anybody in their organization that intimidates other people, do they? Because of their size, or because of their maybe they're a little bit more vocal than other people in the organization. Body language, yeah. Looking at the little guys looking over their shoulder at the other person, making the facial expressions, their body language. Bald-headed people, yeah, those guys are intimidating. But yeah, there's certain signs you can see. You can read people and see that they are having maybe a conflict within themselves, trying to hold back maybe a conflict that they're having with somebody else. So when you start seeing those things, you can start addressing that conflict right away. What's going on? Maybe they don't show up to a couple meetings or something like that. Contacting them and asking them, hey, what's going on? And in these videos, both times, how was the conflict resolved? Them sharing. There was some sort of compromise, right? In the first one, they tore the blanket in half, and then they ended up having to use the whole blanket anyway because the two halves weren't big enough for either one of them. And the next one, he decided to play his guitar a little bit softer, a little bit slower, so that the other guy can sleep. So compromise is how we solve conflicts sometimes. And we're going to talk about the sometimes when it's not as well. So those are some things, some clues that we can see that conflict is about to occur or is occurring within our organization. Just the way that people are acting, the way that people are looking at each other, the way that one group maybe stands over here and talks and another group stands over here and talks. You can see that there might be some conflict there. And as a board member, as a leader in your organization, it's your job to kind of figure out what's going on and to deal with those conflicts before they divide your group. You've got a handout down there, and it says the stages of conflict, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Like I said, you're almost, as an organization, as a group, when you get a bunch of people together, you're almost always in one of these stages of conflict. Most of the time, it's this very first one, the latent stage. A lot of times it takes a while for conflicts to actually come to a head, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But a lot of time you spend in this latent stage of conflict, unless you have a really an organization that's really going well. Sometimes you can actually be a little bit conflict-free for a while. Well, this latent stage is characterized by poor communication, misunderstandings, confusion, and stress. And this can be brought about by many things. We talked a little bit about a few months ago about volunteer recruitment and retention, and we talked about communicating with your volunteers. If somebody gets left off an email, or somebody gets, doesn't get a phone call about this, or doesn't get a phone call about that, that can cause hurt feelings, and that can sometimes run into this latent stage of conflict. Down here it says unprepared versus clear expectations. That's just saying your organization, as a leader, as a board, you can decide to not prepare for conflict that we all know is inevitably going to happen, or you can have clear expectations of the folks that are in your organization as to what to do when conflict does arise. You can lay out guidelines for them to go by, lay out a plan to deal with conflict. Now this latent stage of conflict can be stopped right here a lot of times by using these rules of ethical communication, and some of them are on the bottom of your handout there. I just picked a few, kind of consolidated a few together to show the need for ethical communication. The first one says reject gossip and negative talk. You're going to see that thing about gossip in this presentation 3 or 4 times, because gossip can destroy an organization. You guys know, as leaders in your organization, people come to you when they have a problem with somebody else in the organization, right? They come to you and say, so-and-so is doing this, and so-and-so is doing that. I believe me, I know. On the fire department, our firefighters, some of them, they're like 3rd graders. They like to tattle on each other and say, so-and-so's doing this and so-and-so's doing that. The first thing out of your mouth when somebody does that should be, have you talked to them about it? Have you talked to them about it? You're coming here telling me that you're having a problem with somebody, but have you actually talked to that person about that problem? That right there can solve a ton of conflict. This kind of goes along with the rest of this. Speak respectfully and listen to what others have to say. Now, if somebody comes to you with a genuine problem, I'm not saying blow them off and put them off. I'm saying, try to, if they go and talk to that person about the problem they're having with them, and that person just blows them off, and they come back to you again and say, we're still having this issue. Now, this is when you listen and say, now what is going on? And that's when you start to try to get to the root of this problem. As a leader, take responsibility for your actions and be clear. Be clear about what you expect of people. That can clear up a lot of conflict. Double check and ask for clarification. In our morning session, somebody brought up social media. Well, what if somebody is saying something bad about your organization on social media? That never happens to us, does it? A lot of times, those kind of things can be cleared up by double checking with that person. If somebody says something bad about you, or you feel like they said something bad about you, go to them and say, is that what you really meant by this? Did you really mean, because this is what I heard, this is what I think you meant, is that what you really meant? So a lot of these things can kind of head off big conflicts or small conflicts before they turn into big conflicts. The next stage of conflict is the initial dispute or disagreement. It's characterized by frustration, discomfort, and tension. Now this is still when the conflict is kind of under the surface. It's not really affecting your organization yet. You're noticing, maybe certain people haven't been there in a couple meetings, or certain people aren't talking to other people when they do come. This one group's got a group over here, and this one group's got a group over here, and it's still kind of under the surface, though. Has not come to a full-blown conflict yet. Avoidance versus resolution. This is another time at every stage of this conflict, you as a leader have a decision to make, whether you want to allow this to keep going on or you want to resolve it. And so that's what this is. You can either avoid it and pretend like it's not happening, or you can come to a resolution. And we're going to talk about some of those resolutions and some of those strategies later in the presentation. I asked around this morning at a later time, how different groups handled conflict, and most of them had pretty much the same answer. Oh, we just wait till it blows over or whatever. We don't really deal with it. But I'm telling y'all, sometimes it doesn't blow over, and that's what we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Escalation and crisis stage. This is characterized by open disagreement, power struggles, and distraction. Now, this is when the conflict actually starts to affect your meetings. You can still do your business that you need to do. You can still do the things that your organization needs to do, but it's starting to affect your organization. People are disagreeing publicly. People are having conflicts with each other at your events and at your meetings. They are trying to, probably, if you're a leader at this point, their different sides are trying to pull you in different directions, trying to get you on their side, and it causes distraction. Hidden agendas versus neutrality. Now, what this is talking about is, as a person that's in a position of leadership, as a person that could be a mediator in this conflict, are you going to let your own opinions and your own agendas affect this conflict? Say maybe one of the people that's involved in this conflict you don't really like. Are you going to let your feelings about that person influence this conflict, or are you going to remain neutral and try to work this out? Because at this point, people are starting to take sides, and people are going to want you to start to take sides. Confrontation. This is characterized by threats, fear, and division of the organization. This is when it's getting really bad. You can no longer, your meetings no longer are effective. This conflict is so bad that you can't get any business done. You can either choose, it says attacks versus intervention. You can either choose as a leader to become a part of this conflict and take a side, or you can intervene to come to a resolution. De-escalation, characterized by relief, listening, clarification, and looking for solutions. This is a point where someone in the organization that's a part of this conflict might actually leave. And that will ultimately cause de-escalation, because they're no longer a conflict because the person left. Or you can come to a compromise that's agreeable for both parties. And then finally, resolution, characterized by solution, healing, and cooperation. The resolution either comes when the group takes sides and divides, or changes that are needed are made. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes conflict can lead to changes that needed to be made. We talked a little bit in the morning session about people that are causing division, causing conflict. There are certain people that like to cause conflict, and at some point it may be best if that person leaves. But that is, as a leader, as a board member, that is for you to figure out. I'm not saying, take sides against this person, but naturally sometimes people will just go their separate way. So those are the stages of conflict. Anybody have a question about any of those comments? All right, we're going to talk about some tips for conflict resolution. We're going to have some do's and don'ts here. Now, none of this stuff is set in stone. There may be times when, but most of it's pretty good. You don't do this, or you do this. See the problem versus symptoms. When we talk about symptoms, the most common thing that people think of is medical issues. This is like somebody treating the symptoms of something. You know, say you go to your doctor and you're nauseous all the time. Well, the doctor gives you anti-nausea medicine, but he doesn't do anything else. Does that really solve your problem? Do you know why you're nauseous? No. You just know that you're not nauseous anymore because you take this pill every day. Sometimes we do that in organizations. We do these fixes that just treat the symptoms. So as a leader, you need to figure out what the root cause of this conflict is. This morning we talked a little bit about sometimes those causes are personal in nature, right? Sometimes two people don't get along because, they just don't get along for personal reasons. That's when you have to use your discretion as a leader. We're going to talk a little bit later about keeping things out in the open, keeping things public. That's when you have to use your discretion as a leader to whether or not to be public about what's going on. You might just have to say, well, these two people are having a personal conflict and they're working it out. That might be what you have to say in some of these situations. But you want to try, no matter what, as the leader, as a board member, as somebody that's mediating, you want to try to get to what the root problem is in this conflict. And that's going to involve what? How do you figure out what the problem is? Yeah, you're going to have to talk to those people that are involved in the conflict and try your best to get out of them what their problem is. Do you have something to say, sir?
Yes, sir. It's, how far down do you go in the investigative process if the person is, has unresolved issues within themselves?
Yeah.
And that's what you're running into. At what point do you deal with that versus,
Yeah, there comes a point, and I'm not where you have to, as you're investigating, as you're looking into what the problem is, if it's a personal problem with somebody, there comes a point when you have to, as a leader, as a mediator, say, you might, they may not be forthcoming with you about what the real problem is, and that's when you have to tell them, you might want to resolve your issues and then come back and help us at a later time. And sometimes that's hard because that person may be somebody that helps you all the time. That person may be your best volunteer, but they're having personal problems. I'm not saying, cut people off or give them the axe or whatever. You can't really give them the axe. It's a volunteer organization, but you can. Ty says you can give them the axe, but I don't know. The answer to that question is on a case-by-case basis. I mean, it's as different as the people in your organization. How far do you push someone to give the answer to this question? There's not really a concrete answer to that.
How long would you chase them to talk to them if they refuse to talk to you?
How long would you chase them to talk to them?
Yes.
Literally chase them, like in your car, chase them down? that Well, that's why it's important in your bylaws, especially if they're a board member. That's why it's important in your bylaws to say if a person misses this many meetings, then you have the right to replace them on the board. That should be stated in your bylaws that regular board attendance.
Then they showed up at the last. It was time to get rid of them, and acted surprised, like, what are you talking about? Then I was the bad guy. Mm. Everybody knows I'm always right.
Yeah, that protocol, that procedure for replacing a board member or somebody like that should be clearly defined. If you miss 3 meetings, if you miss 4 meetings, I mean, if you guys don't even have a meeting every month, do you? You guys have them quarterly, don't you?
Yeah.
We have quarterly meetings, but we
always have
other
something
meetings.
going
Okay.
on.
But it should, I mean, if you miss 4 meetings, if you have a meeting every month and somebody misses 4 meetings, they've missed, a quarter of a third of the year. So I mean, that's but that should be stated in your bylaws how how long you give somebody.
They can miss one meeting and that's it, and I'm off. I'm just kidding.
One meeting, that's pretty tough. Yes, Kevin.
Brad, in my experience, when you have conflict between two people, sometimes it's best to meet separately with those people before you bring them together. And that way you can work out with each person what their issue is and what resolution they're looking for before you can bring them together to figure that out.
Yeah. Kevin said meet separately with those people because they might be a little bit more forthcoming if the person that they're actually in conflict with is not in the room. And we're going to talk about that, about meeting with people here in just a little bit. Ask the group for help. There may be somebody in your group that's better at dealing with conflict than you are. You may have a professional in your on your board or in your group of volunteers. Don't be afraid to ask for help. State the problem clearly. Once you do find out the problem and you do get the people involved together, the problem needs to be stated, and that way everybody knows what the problem is. And I would go a step further than this. Like Kevin said, state, what people want clearly. Have them state what they want, or you state it for them if they've told you. Find a win-win solution compromise. This is the best case scenario. To find a compromise where both sides think that they won. That's what people want to do, is win, right? Define expectations and consequences beforehand. The expectation of typing sometimes and the consequences is that you forget your E in beforehand. But this is, and I always go back to my fire department because that's what I have experience with, is our fire chief, he sits down with each new firefighter for about 6 hours before he hands them radio and pager and all that gear and stuff, and tells them what he expects of them. I'm not saying put all your volunteers through a boot camp or something for training, but be clear about what you want from people. That can avoid a lot of conflict, and be clear about what the consequences are of causing conflict. You know, we talked a little bit this morning about having a clear mission statement. Be clear that mission, that your goals as an organization, that you're not going to compromise on those, that you're not going to allow conflict to stop you from doing the things that your organization has decided to do. Use the ethical communication rules. Don't gossip. Don't talk about people when they're not around. Some don'ts. Don't take sides. If at all possible, do not take a side. Remain neutral. If you're not the person that's having a conflict, if you're trying to be the mediator, don't take sides. Don't let your own opinion or your personal opinion about a person affect your mediation. Don't question someone's integrity. This goes to what you were talking about. If somebody says this is the problem, and they're not going to go any further than that, don't say, "Now, is that really the problem?" You know, you might push them just a little bit, but if they say this is the problem and this is what the resolution that I want, take that and deal with it. If it turns out that wasn't the problem, then you're going to have to start all over again. But don't question someone's integrity. But don't tolerate unethical, abusive, or destructive behaviors. If you see something that's going on that's not ethical, somebody that's being intimidating or abusive to others, and you see that, then you need to stop that right away. Don't tolerate that kind of behavior. Again, don't gossip or talk behind someone's back. Any questions or any comments about any of those? I can see that some people's wheels are turning. So any comments about? You think you're pretty clear? Ty's Way or the Highway. You can get some shirts that say that, Ty's Way or the Highway. Okay, we're going to take a break and let you guys refill your cups and things like that. But when we come back, oh, we had a question?
Yeah, it's just generally, I've been in this work for 41 years, and I see private nonprofits now acting just like Fortune 500 companies, and about market share, about vicious takeovers, and they're gobbling up money, and so that being the background, when do you introduce community values into the picture and discussion, as a way of cleaning the air up? Is that anything that's...
Yeah. Well, this is something especially important, and I was gonna. Chris actually said something to me about this after this morning's training. Was talking especially about this in the light of a Native American culture and Cherokee culture. I think those things, when you have folks that are Cherokee and folks that are not Cherokee working together like most of us do in our organizations, I don't think any time is too soon to introduce those things.
Let me say, this has never been here.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying, but I think especially within Native American groups, I think those core values, a lot of folks have those kind of already instilled in them. A lot of groups are, have board members and things that are Cherokee, and or all of our groups do, but some of them are 100%, their board's 100% Cherokee, and so there's no question about some of those values. But I think your organization should be founded upon those community values. There should be a time, like you say, to kind of reintroduce those things if people start getting off track. That's a part of being clear, when people come in about these are our values, this is our mission, this is what we do. So that's to me, that's kind of a part of being clear about your expectations.
And I'd like to add that I think, especially in conflict, if you talk about the values at that time, then it kind of reinforces that everybody has that commonality, those common values, and so you can see it's us against the problem instead of me against you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, like I said, we're going to take a break real quick, but when you come back, be ready to do some deep introspection within yourself, because we're talking about how we as people, as a person, deal with our anger. And so that's what we're going to do when we get back. 10-minute break.
Because if it had been a whole different section, it would yeah, I was cooking poke salad one time. I had a little knife, I like to so I was just going through that, hit it with the blade. I got right there by some poke salad in the morning.
Okay, time's up. We're going to go ahead and get started back. Okay, we're going to talk about how we deal with conflict and anger. And the purpose of this is for you as leaders, as board members, as mediators in conflict, to recognize when, first of all, yourself, recognize when you are getting angry, but also recognize some of the other signs that other people are getting angry. If you, as the mediator in the conflict, get angry and let your anger start to show through, people are going to see that. So that's what we're going to talk about is anger. We're going to talk about some healthy ways to deal with anger. We're going to talk about some not so healthy ways to deal with anger. So, as a group, we're just going to talk, and we're going to talk about what do you do when you get mad. This is the part where you're going to have to be as honest as you can be about what happens when you get really, really mad. And I'll start since I'm asking you guys to do this, okay? When I get really, really mad, I'm really, really mad for about 5 or 6 seconds. And I'm talking really mad. This happens. I get really mad for about 5 or 6 seconds, and then I usually cry because I'm so mad. And then I get mad at myself for being, for letting my anger get the best of me. And this is talking like months of something, letting stuff make you angry. So, anybody, who else wants to share with us? What do you do when you get really mad?
Silent treatment.
The silent treatment. You just withdraw and stop talking. Okay?
I'm usually quiet because Grandma said if you don't have nothing nice to say.
Then quiet. What else? Who else? When you get really mad, what do you do?
Depends on where I'm at.
Depends on where you're at.
If I'm in a room with a group of people and something happens, I might get up and walk out
Yeah.
because I'm so angry at what's been said, whatever.
So you might leave. You might just remove yourself
Right.
from the situation. You said you get what? Turn your back on them. You said you get loud. Who said they get loud? Some people get loud. Some people yell.
Tell people I'm getting really angry, and why.
Yeah.
So
you-
and then I try to pray the serenity prayer.
Pray. Yeah, that's a good. So you verbalize that you're getting angry and why.
Facial expressions, too. I like to give people really mean looks.
You give people mean looks. What else?
I get really, really mad. I say what I think.
Say what you think.
Yeah, which is usually correct.
Yeah.
Again, not being known to be cautious and quiet. Like my girlfriend told me, she said, Barb, sometimes you're direct, sometimes downright blunt. But
So you say what you're thinking when you get mad.
then that sort of cools down. It might cause a lot of problems later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Sometimes people say things they don't mean when they get mad. Sometimes people say things they exactly what they mean when they get mad. That's true. Anybody else want to share with us what they do when they get mad? You don't ever get mad, do you, Emily?
Personally, when I get mad at myself, I'll say, "Why did I do that?" If it's with someone else, I look at them to see their facial expressions and see if I can figure out why they are so angry. And my thought is, I could just put my arms around you because I know you hurt.
Yeah.
Hug it out.
Hug it out. Hug it out. Here are some things that some people do when this was from the curriculum here. Some people take a walk. Some people yell. Some people get quiet, withdraw from everybody else. But all these things have consequences, right? All these things that we do when we get mad have consequences. And sometimes those consequences are good. Sometimes they're bad. If you go on a walk every time you get mad, if you get mad quite often, you might lose some weight, And that might be a good consequence. But if you eat chocolate every time you get mad, you might gain some weight. So there's consequences to all these actions. And there's consequences to your organization when people get angry, right? When people get angry within the organization, there's always consequences.
And if you yell, you want to say things you don't
Yeah.
want to say.
Say things you wished you hadn't of. Yell while you're walking. Then somebody might report you. Yeah. Okay. Now this is just we did a little brainstorming together. This next exercise is for you to do on your own. On your paper that you have, there's a paper that has my PowerPoint presentation. On there, you can write the answers. We're going to have 3 questions. The first one is kind of just for you. The second and third one are something that you might want to share with the other people in your organization. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. So the first question, what was that, Kevin? The first question, when things are not going well for me, I tend to blank. So when something is not going well for you, what do you tend to do? Okay. The second question, my greatest strength in dealing with conflict is, and my greatest weakness in dealing with conflict is. So those are the 3 questions just to yourself I want you to answer, and then I'm going to give you an example after you're done with that. Like I said, you don't have to share these with the group. You might want to later, but you might definitely want to share those last 2 with the people in your organization, and I'll tell you why here in just a minute. So take a couple minutes and answer those 3 questions.
Keep your eyes on your own paper.
No copying time.
It's all right. very chatty tonight. Are you mad at each other?
We'll miss our leader.
Missing your fearless leader.
Does that make you angry? If so, what is your... It's a tough time. Oh, training. Are you licensed food handler? Go home and put the thermometer in the refrigerator and make sure it's below what?
Yeah.
41 degrees.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little example. We're going to talk about these last two questions. Like I said, that first one is just kind of for you. If you want to share it with other people, you can. But these last two, you may want other people in your organization, other people on your board to know in case you do have to deal with conflict in your organization. You will. So you want them to know this. What is your major strength in dealing with confrontation, and what is your weakness? My weakness, we'll start off with my weakness. I'm going to use this as an example. My weakness is that I like for people to be happy with me. I like to please people. And sometimes dealing with conflict, that's not the best thing. I would say my strength is that I'm empathetic. I listen to people, and thus I want them to be happy. So I can listen to people really well, but I may not be the best person to make somebody, if you have to make somebody upset, I may not be the best person to do that. So the reason that other people in your organization might need to know this is you may need to team up with somebody that's the opposite of you. You may need, like me, I might need to team up with somebody that maybe they don't listen all that well, but they're a straight shooter. They will be blunt. You know, when it comes time for that, they will be blunt. So this might be something that you need to talk about within your organization. Like I said before, you need to have a plan because conflict is going to occur within your group. So you need to have a plan. So you might say, well, me and you need to be the conflict resolution team because our strengths and weaknesses complement one another. So that's something you might want to share with others in your organization. And we're all going to share here in just a little bit what we learned, so I'm not going to make everybody share this. Okay, we're going to talk about interventions that work in dealing with anger within ourselves. And then we're going to talk about interventions that work in dealing with and resolving conflict. Okay? So these are some healthy ways to deal with anger. Exercise. Like I said, this might be a good thing. If you get angry often and you start exercising to deal with your anger, you might drop a few pounds. That's probably how I should start dealing with mine. Take deep breaths. I'm sure that these next couple, if you're a parent in here, I'm sure you've used these before. Take deep breaths. Don't reach out and strangle them. Take deep breaths. Okay? Count to 10. Count to 10 or 20 or 100 or whatever you have to do to calm down. Okay? Journal. Some people find it relaxing to write down why they're angry and what they're angry about. That calms some people down. Some people. I'm not saying it works for everybody. Some people. She's sitting over here going, You do not know me. Get outside. There's something about being outside that relaxes some people, especially when it's sunny and nice outside. If you're having trouble inside, it might help to go outside and laugh. Somebody this morning said they've seen people diffuse conflicts by laughing. You know, somebody starts in at one of your meetings, and you know, it might diffuse the conflict. It might get you punched in the face, but if you laugh about the problem, it can help you deal a lot of times with that problem.
So you take it outside? Is that what you're saying?
Take it outside. No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean that's a way to deal with it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good way. We're talking about positive. Yeah, that work. It works all right, but it causes more conflict, like with the police and judges and stuff. Oh, some people can, because it can come back as evidence in a criminal investigation. No, don't get on Facebook to deal with your anger.
That could be their journal.
I'm going to say journal privately. Yeah.
Between me and my friends.
Okay. Interventions that work in dealing with conflict. Now, the anger was helping ourselves. This is helping others. Okay? If you're a mediator in a conflict, stay calm. Stay calm. Don't let your own anger, your own feelings dictate how you deal with the conflict. Listen to all sides. Really listen. Even if you don't like the other person, really listen to what they have to say. Encourage face-to-face communication. This is not Facebook communication. This is face-to-face communication. Is always the best when dealing with conflict. No text messages, no, phones. Even if you're talking to somebody on the phone, you can't see their facial expressions, you can't see their body language. Face-to-face communication, there's less likelihood that you're going to be misunderstood. What if they're going to talk noise to you?
Yeah, people get sassy on the phone.
On the phone, yeah. Yeah. But always encourage the people that, and this is what Kevin was talking about earlier, you might want to have a little conference with both sides before you get them together to make sure, you understand what this person wants, what the other person wants, make sure they're not going to, want to take it outside, something like that. But encourage them to talk to each other face to face. Have a plan. Don't just wing it. Don't just hope it goes away, because it could go away and take your organization with it. It could get that bad.
That's why you want to talk to both sides so you can see what the real problem is and not just what they're telling you.
Right. You talk to them. I'm going to say talk to them publicly, privately, as in let people know why you're talking to them. Because private meetings, I think that's the next, if you can, keep it public. Private meetings where some people in your organization are invited and some people aren't, those only make the conflict deeper, make the division worse. Because automatically somebody goes in, you're in a conflict with this person, they go into and talk with the board president or whoever, the board, you automatically think they're talking about me, even if you may not be the person they're talking about. But try to keep it public if you can. Again, we talked about this in the morning session. Sometimes conflicts between people have nothing to do with your organization. A lady this morning brought up, well, what if a guy's current wife and his ex-wife are both in your organization? Their conflict may be of a personal matter and not dealing with your organization. That's when you need to encourage them to work it out on their own. Because once it starts to affect your organization, it becomes your conflict as well.
Brad, a question. What if it's a conflict between the board and a member of the community? Does that affect if you have private meetings or not?
I wouldn't think so. I would think that would be,
Still need to be public.
yeah. If you're meeting as, say, a member of the community has a problem with one of your board members, if your whole board is going to meet about that issue, it has to be public. If your whole board is going to get together and meet about something, it has to be public unless it has to do with you have employees and things like that. If you're dealing with a personnel issue, say disciplining somebody, then you can have an executive session when nobody else is.
You know, like the school board or whatever.
Yeah, this goes into Open Meetings Act. This is law.
Brad, can I address
Yeah.
that? So basically, you are all nonprofits. So you have to do the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. There are probably only one or two of you that actually have employees. And so basically, there would probably be no reason for you all to have an executive session. I mean, you can only do that if it involves disciplinary action against another board member or it has something to do with an employee. So you have to be very open and public about any issues.
But if it is one of those two,
Correct.
so where do you, we're dealing with it right now. And I'd love to see what you just said in writing that we could give to our board for them to look at that, because they're anxious about having a meeting without making it public. But what we need to talk about is it would be against the law to open that up to the public.
So basically, to address that, again, you need to be very, very careful before you hold an executive session. And so, yes, the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act, we do have those books and we have those references in our office. So, again, it would only be if you're taking disciplinary action against an employee, which very few of you have, or it's a board member. But again, you have to be very clear. If you go into executive session, you cannot take action. You can only have discussion. Then you must go back into open session, allowing anyone that's there to come into that and vote on it. So again, we can sit down with you one-on-one if you have a problem like that and help you through it. But yeah, you do have to be very careful when you go into an executive session. I'm sorry, what?
Who would be voting?
The board of directors, if you're needing to take disciplinary action.
So you can act if it is one.
You cannot act in the executive session. You cannot take a vote during executive session. You cannot.
Okay, so,
You can only have discussion.
okay, so when you then come out of that,
It's open to the public when you take the vote.
I think what you're saying is, how would you frame the discussion in public?
Well, you would have to just be very vague on the, executive session, but they're still going to know what you're talking about. They just can't hear your discussions. So you are a nonprofit. You cannot have anything under the table.
I'm just aware of lawsuits that employees have
Right.
fired
Right.
against their employees
Right.
for releasing information.
Right. So you do have to be very careful. And like I said, sit down with our office and we can help do some TA with you to kind of help you through this. But again, just be very careful anytime you take an executive session, because with a nonprofit, everything has to be open and clear. So everything has to be out on the table. So, but we can work with you on that one.
Okay. That's good information for everybody to have. Okay, before we go into our closing comments here, before I give you guys an opportunity to talk about what we've learned, we talked a little bit earlier about the values, when to bring values into this discussion. And we actually have in our office a person that's available to you guys to come out and talk about Cherokee values. Her name is Donnie Squirrel, and she actually goes to some of our at-large groups and talks about these Cherokee values, and I'm sure that she would be happy to come to a meeting at one of your groups and talk about the Cherokee values. And these are values that have come from her and other people's conversations with Cherokee elders. They're not just things that, you know, somebody has made up. They're actual values that have helped our culture, our tribe, to flourish over thousands of years. So she does a real good presentation on those, and we have a handout that has a lot of those on there as well. So you can get a hold of her at our office. Everybody's email, and I think her phone number will be up here at the end of the slide as well, but her name is Donnie Squirrel. Okay. We're going to go around the room here and close up, and we're going to talk about something that you have learned tonight. And Kevin's going to pass the microphone around here, and we'll start with Tina back here. Because you're by yourself tonight, we can pick on you.
I'm going to take back everything because I kind of need some of all of it, but more to work than my organization, though.
Tammy wants to say something.
I want to say something. One thing, guys, that I try to go out when I'm doing a little conflict resolution is sometimes you have to agree to disagree. And whatever your bylaws state, go by them. You take a vote, and the majority rules. And you have to agree to disagree and let it go.
Jeff's writing a novel. Maybe he'll pause and give us a.
Just making sure all of our board members knows that we have an open line of communication, and let's certainly be aware of it.
All right.
This is my very first meeting, and I just want to let you know I've enjoyed it very much, and I have learned a little bit more than I did before. I don't want to go into all that because it'd take forever, but I just want to let you know I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
It's cool. No. I'm cool.
Whatever it costs, no fighting.
No fighting.
Dealing with conflict, just stay calm.
Stay calm.
I think I'm getting ready to learn more about the Open Meeting Act.
Okay. The mission of your bylaws and personal integrity with the agree and disagreement.
I'll say more open communication from the parties that are having a conflict.
I don't know, Brad. No. No, I enjoyed it. It's good to talk about how other people might handle, because, you know, we heard from different people tonight. So just hearing how other people communicate, and communication is important. So
I agree with Bobby to stay calm.
Stay
no matter
calm.
what the conflict.
To handle conflict, you find the common ground and try to find a compromise.
Just to be stronger.
Realizing the need for knowing more about the regulations for nonprofits in meetings. I did not realize that we're not allowed to have any votes in executive session, so I think we need to delve into that more.
I think just the staying calm during the whole conflict, and then to have a plan when you're dealing with the conflict.
I need to make a large chart of the ethical communication. And I need to review it every day.
You need to put don't gossip real big at the top.
I learned that apparently I'm not always correct. Get those who are able to speak better to do the job for me.
How are you going to convince everybody of that?
I learned that you can handle things in a positive way.
Apparently I'm passive. Didn't ever know that.
Recognize their, I don't know, this is making me nervous. Don't take it personal.
Don't take it personal.
Think before you act.
Think before you act.
I like hers.
What I liked about tonight was that you need to listen to both sides, not just one of them, but listen to both sides and get them together and try to work out something.
Right. I would like to add a personal note that I do fairly well at conflict resolution as long as I'm not a part of the conflict.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not so good.
Yeah. All right, before we get out of here, I just want to thank y'all for coming. This is my favorite part of all these trainings is getting to hear from you all and how you're dealing with things. And I think that's the best part of these trainings. It's not necessarily the person up here giving the presentation. It's learning from each other, and that's why it's really important for folks to be here for these presentations. Like I said, we do have them online, recorded. This one will be up tomorrow. I never got a link on here, but there will be an evaluation online for people that did not get to attend tonight to watch this presentation and take an online evaluation to get TA hours for watching the presentation. So, do you have something, Chris? All right.
Just one more thing before we all go. Don't forget to fill your evaluation out, by the way.
Yep.
Or Mark Parman will hunt you guys down. The last thing I really want to tell you is thank you guys for being here throughout this entire year. Oddly enough, believe it or not, guys, we have almost reached the end of this curriculum. After next month, that will be the last session of this curriculum. That being said, this is a national program, so there is a certification that we can give you guys if you completed all the modules. So in May, what the actual session, there will not be a 10 a.m. session. There will only be a 6 p.m. session, and it will be a session that we're here to honor everybody that finished their certification in this. So if you are missing one or two or whatever, they are online. Go back and watch them. Fill out the evaluations. They automatically come to us so we can get you guys that certificate. And at 6 o'clock in May, it's what we're going to do for that one there, is we're going to get together and we're going to honor those who have finished it. So if anybody has any questions, you can call or email me, Chris Welch. My office line is 207-4953. It's up here. You guys can call me. You guys know the routine on the Cherokee Nation email. It's chris-welch@cherokee.org. If you guys have a question of what you've missed. Now, there are 2 sessions that we missed on getting put up. We will be doing those hopefully in June and July, getting those re-recorded. That way, if you miss those, you'll be able to go back. And then after that point, we will dismail you, or next time we see you, we'll get you your certificate, okay? It's for individuals. It's for individuals for finishing this program here. The great news is that our great supervisor, our manager here, Miss Tammy Miller, is approved for Brad and I to go get certified to teach some more of this curriculum through NeighborWorks of America. So we will have a new batch of stuff for next year. Hopefully, we'll be able to kind of critique it to what our organizations need here in our 14-county jurisdictional area for the Cherokee Nation. So it's going to be more intergenerational building community building based on how to bridge that gap from youth to elder all the way through. So it's great. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say to Brad, I appreciate the way you give the presentation.
Thank you.
Very clear and interesting and easy to grasp.
Thank you.
He's not bad for a newbie, is he? Yes, Faye.
Edith Knight, I don't know if y'all know her or not, have you heard anything about her?
We haven't since this morning, so.
Okay, that they did take her off life support.
Yeah, we're not really talking about that.
Okay, yeah, but it's good for her.
Chris
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Brad, I want to say that thanks to you and Cherokee Nation and CCO, we are stepping out more and doing things for the community. And we are working with